Good evening. We're here at the Clayton Center again for our Thursday night, first Thursday of the month reception with Clayton Visual Arts. We have a wonderful show tonight and this month. I'm here with Katie Probst, and Katie is a photographer, and her work is behind us here, and it's an eclectic group of pictures. You seem to take pictures of whatever strikes you.
It's a very organic process for me. If I like it, I'm there with it.
Well, we'll start out with, I understand you're from the same kind of area that I'm from. You're from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that area.
Right.
And that's where I came from. And then you've moved around a lot, and I've moved around a lot. So we have that in common. Tell us a little bit about, you have a degree now in photography and so forth.
It's new visual media.
New visual media. But you didn't get that until you were like 50 years old.
Exactly 50.
Tell us
almost to the day.
Tell us about that.
Unfortunately, I have autoimmune disorders. I have lupus and fibromyalgia, and it restricted what I could do. I wasn't functioning very well. But I was determined to get my degree. And there was a program with Empire State College, SUNY Empire State. You could actually work from home on your computer, and then you'd go in on occasion to meet up with your professor and discuss your work. And they had one group class. And so because I was able to do it at home, I was able to accomplish
That's
that.
wonderful. That's wonderful. That's determination. I never got my degree, and when I was 50, I never thought about it.
It's not too late.
I had about a year to go. What would I do with it now? Anyway, they should grant it to me
There we go.
for past experiences and everything. Then tell us what happened. After 50, you did some moving around?
We did some moving around, mainly to my husband's work. And my daughter Emily, who's here with us tonight, wanted to take marine biology classes, and Wilmington is where you go. So we decided to move down here. Number one, for the weather. Number two, so that she could get in-state tuition. And we've been here ever since, 7 years ago.
That's wonderful.
So that's what brought us here.
So I was going to ask you, how do you end up in North Carolina? I always ask the artists, how did you end up in little old Clayton?
That's the story.
That's the
Well,
story.
we were able to afford property in Clayton.
Me too.
Yeah, and I didn't know we would have as many. We have dogs. I'm sure we're going to discuss that. We didn't know we'd have as many dogs, but we had one, and it was nice to have a big yard for her to run around in. And so Clayton ended up being it.
I think some of your pictures are of your dogs.
Yes. Yes.
Tell us about your Chinese dogs.
Oh, they're called Chinese Cresteds, and they come in both a hairless variety and a powder puff. Most people know the hairless variety. They're very unique. They're rare. They're very intelligent. They actually pose for me at this point. Honestly, they do.
Yeah.
You can ask any of my family members. Just very smart and very loving dogs, and beautiful. When they're bred correctly, they're just beautiful, like little horses.
Well.
And I showed them for a while.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You don't breed them?
I do.
Oh,
One of
okay.
the picture of Wynn that's up here, that came from one breeding. I've done one breeding.
I see.
But I bought a little girl. I don't think her picture's up. I just got her a few weeks ago, and I'll be breeding her to him.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about your photography.
Okay.
I know you spent some time in Paris.
Yes. Just about a week.
Okay. And did you burn up your camera while you were there?
I did, but the funniest part is I ended up enjoying taking pictures in the subway, the musicians in the subway, the kids out in the parks, not so much the Eiffel Tower and all those things you'd expect. Although I did take pictures of Notre Dame.
Okay.
And my friend lives there, so I was able to stay with her.
I think that's one of the unique things about your work is the fact that it's not your standard landscapes and portraits and that sort of thing. It seems like just off the cuff, and you were at the right place at the right time.
That's exactly the way it happens, very organically. I would, if you wouldn't mind, like to discuss the poster that's behind us.
Okay.
I forgot to mention that to you.
Okay. He'll take a picture of it a little bit later.
Okay,
for
all
the
right.
show.
I entered a contest the end of last year, a poster contest for a documentary that's going to be filmed. It's about bullying. And I won. They're using two of my posters, one for their Facebook page profile picture, One of them's on IMDb, and I'm actually listed as their photographer.
That's wonderful.
So it's very exciting. They're fundraising. That's one of the reasons I want to bring it up now. They're fundraising for this documentary. So if you go to Facebook and you go search Broken Bones, Shattered Dreams, there'll be more information there.
Broken Bones, Shattered Dreams.
I took this over at Longleaf Academy in
Oh,
Raleigh.
right.
The kids were fantastic.
Oh, it's a story that has a million stories
It sure
along
does.
with it. I mean, you
Sure
look at it
does.
and you can just see what's going on, and it's well done. Well, congratulations. That's
Thank
a
you.
feather in your cap,
Thank
isn't it?
you.
I know you're doing this show. You're doing another show
Yes.
later
Wake
on
Forest.
this year, Wake Forest.
The Cotton Company.
Is there, what kind of camera are you using? Do you have
It's
several? Or?
well, I was using a Sony A65. I just got a brand new mirrorless wide frame camera. And it's very, very light and wonderful camera. I love it. It's still a learning curve because I just got it, but it's an A7. Full frame was the term I was trying to think of.
So when you started, I guess you were still using chemicals and
Yeah, a long
dark
time
room
ago.
and all that stuff?
And, well, back then I was even using 110 cameras, and Polaroids, and somehow I managed to get good shots out of it, although I didn't think about it at the time. I was just enjoying myself. So some of these pictures, I don't know if I have them up. Some of them are like 30 years old. I didn't even imagine I'd be a photographer.
most photographers that we talk to were a little reluctant to get into the digital age.
Oh.
But now they can't imagine what they went through.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, I thought it was cheating at first. But now I realize that the editing, the post-editing, takes a lot of
That's where the
craft.
art is.
Yes,
That's where the art is.
exactly. You don't have to change it dramatically, but if you can make it look better, then why not?
Sure. Well, it's a wonderful show, and I hope you'll have an opportunity to come down and check it out. I'm here now with a long, tall Texan, Michael Morrison. Michael is a contemporary or abstract artist, and his work is something to behold, and I hope you'll come down and take a look at it. If not, you'll see it a little later in the show. Michael, good to see you again.
Nice to meet you.
It's good to have you back. Let's tell us a little bit. I called you a long, tall Texan. You grew up in, you said Beaumont, Texas?
Beaumont, Texas, southeast Texas.
So if you'd been down there last night or the night before, you'd have been pretty close to Mardi Gras, wouldn't you?
I sure would have.
Yeah. I was in Beaumont just last year, as a matter of fact. So you've been painting since you were in your early 20s?
Yeah, 1980 or so, I started playing around. I piddled with my dad and my mother. My dad was a person who took like pieces of driftwood and sculptures and actually dug out a canoe out of wood. And I just learned a lot of tricks and trades from him. And I decided to go in the art world in 1980 and kind of piddle around, which is exactly what I did. And when I ended up in the Virgin Islands working for Nestle USA, which is Stouffer Grand Beach Resort, I was on call and on the property 24 hours a day. So I started taking palm fronds and parts and pieces of different woodwork and would make objects of them and sell them at a shop in Charlotte Amalie, which is in downtown in the harbor. And it turns out a couple of years later, I went down to see them and they thought I was a Rasta because, you know, for some reason my artwork created the image of an island person. So it was kind of funny. But
I thought you were one of them, huh?
I sold quite a bit of masks and different things like that. And then when I left the Virgin Islands, I completely stopped and had a sabbatical for several years. And just previously, before I met my current wife, I started dabbling in again. But when I met her, she was going through her second breast cancer. And I went through it with her, and my therapy was to start painting because it was my version of of my therapy for that. So I dedicate all my art to my wife, and my inspiration is her. And that's what my driving force is.
But I know I wasn't going to get to that yet, but while you were talking about that, I know you're very into the pink for breast cancer.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the things that you're doing with that organization.
Well, Pretty in Pink Foundation, I interviewed a lot of foundations in North Carolina and in the United States, and they ended up picking one, and it was called Pretty in Pink Foundation, which was it was founded by Dr. Tolnich. And Dr. Tolnich at one time was examining a patient to have surgery. If you can imagine being diagnosed with breast cancer, but you can't afford to do anything. So she started an organization or a foundation that took care of people that were underinsured or not insured to raise money to have them have the treatment. And they call them champions instead of survivors. So in other words, last year I had a champion I had to raise money for here in Johnson County so that that person can get the treatment so she can continue to live. So in that respect, that's why I'm painting 4 to 5 hours, usually a night, because I want to save people's lives through a different way. I'm not a surgeon. The sight of blood probably makes me faint, but so this was my way. And so I met with them, and it was kind of like the lights came on and the light bulb, their mission. Most of their appropriations of their whole budget is amazing that it all goes towards a program, upwards of 90% plus. So it was perfect. So I gelled with them, and I've been with them ever since.
Well, that's a
Been
wonderful.
a little bit over a year now, but very good organization.
Is your wife all right? Yeah.
My wife is doing good.
That's good. That's good. And I understand this organization, while I thought when I saw that you were involved in it, I thought it was nationwide, but right now it's just in North Carolina, is that right?
It's just in North Carolina, and we have hundreds of people on the waiting list. So our challenge is to make it, we'd like to go to South Carolina and other states, and we're fixing to open an office in Charlotte. We have one in Wilmington and here in Raleigh. But I would say that we'd like to expand, but it's really hard with so many foundations out there, to pick and choose from.
Sure.
It's really tough.
Sure. Well, God bless you for that. Let's talk about your work.
Yes, sir.
You mainly work in acrylic.
Acrylic, most of the time, yes, sir.
And what is that? VSSO? Beso? Beso?
Gesso?
Gesso, GES.
Gesso is a board. It's a gesso board.
Like masonite or something?
Yeah, and it's on the board. But are you talking about a Gicle?
No.
Gicle?
No.
Okay. So I work on acrylic on canvas and mostly on gesso board,
Okay.
which is a flat board, and some scratch board and other techniques that I'm trying to work with. In other words, wood pieces and other things that I'm developing as I mature, as they say.
As you mature. Tell me about your inspirations. Some of it, your stuff is wonderful, but some of it is kind of landscapey and some of it is impressionistic. I love the one over there. Was it the guards?
Two guards at the gate.
Yeah, guards at the gate, and it's two peacocks. And
Actually, it's when you get past St. Peter's, there's two people that you meet in heaven, and those are your two guards.
Was that right?
It's God and Jesus.
But aren't they peacocks?
If you
In your
buy
picture?
it, you can tell me whatever you want.
That's what I thought it was. I used to live in Southern California, and I worked for an oil company, and we'd be out on site, and we'd go to these ranches, and you'd come up to a gate, and you'd get out, and we had keys to get into the gate because they were leasing land, or we were leasing land from them. But all of a sudden, here would come the peacocks, and they'd come out after you, and they were the guard dogs for these ranches out there in California. So that's what I saw. So I guess I have to buy it now. Is that it?
Well, my thrust of my work right now is purely abstract and landscapes. The abstractism comes from visiting Italy a few times and talking to people and meeting with people, but I'm self-taught. There are two people who have made an inspiration in my life as far as painting. One is my wife, and the other is a lady named Ellen Orsick in Houston, who actually showed me and taught me the color wheel. I actually painted the color wheel myself. Mm-hmm. The rest is all from my little tiny acorn up here, and that's where it all comes from.
Well, some of the work looks like you might be a little off. But
And that's
most of
true.
it, but most
That's
of it's
true.
wonderful.
I've been told I'm off half a bubble, but you know, but I like Jackson Pollock. I like some of the other people that do abstracts. Peter Max I've been compared to lately, and most people go, "Who's Peter Max?" So I go, "I know I'm
Oh,
old
my.
now," you know, and so you know, it's just my own style. I have anywhere from 20 to 30 paintings going on at the same time.
Really?
And I will work on one for 5 minutes and let it sit for maybe anywhere from a week to a year until I develop another image of what I want to put into the painting. Some paintings go really fast, some go really slow. Ready for Takeoff, that's in here, took 2 years for me to finish. It was just a process of, I sit, you know how when you go to a gallery, a museum, they have the benches that you can
Sure.
sit on and look. So some nights I'll just go down and look at all the paintings for hours and make notes of things and where I'm headed. So I know I'm still emerging and developing, but I think, as you know, practice makes perfect. But I think practice is going to be better for me because I'll get better as time goes by. So within the last year, I've painted over 300 works of art.
Really?
And I have an alarm clock, and
It's
it goes
almost
off
one
at
a day.
Well, kinda, and I have an alarm clock that goes off around midnight telling me, okay, it's time for you to go to bed. So my passion and drive is twofold to keep me, my wife lives in Houston currently and I'm stationed up here. So I don't have any dogs or cats or little ones. So after a hard day at work, you know how it is, you want to decompress. So that's my avenue of expression. So it's for a good cause. I give a certain percentage of the proceeds to Pretty in Pink Foundation, and I want to save people's lives and also have fun.
Well, it's wonderful. And thank
And
you
I
for
want to
bringing
tell you
work,
that
bringing
Clayton
work.
Visual Arts is a great inspiration to me because the people I've
thank you.
met through this association are phenomenal. And the work that you do, I heard you're not a painter, but you're an
I'm not an
inspiration
artist.
of painters. That I really thank Clayton Visual Arts for letting me be here this year.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
And thank you.
Well, we have a wonderful show here, and I hope you'll have an opportunity to get down to see it. It'll hang until the end of March. In April, we have an all-photography show, and it's one artist. His name is Kyle Wilson, and I think you'll be impressed with his work. But he will fill the Clayton Center with his photographs. So have an opportunity, get down here and see the art, and thanks for tuning in.